This is Anna Kasparian, host and executive producer of The Young Turks, the largest online progressive news show in the world. Today's episode is brought to you by Naked Wines. Here's a dirty little secret. The wine industry wants to create as much distance between you and the winemaker as possible. Scandalous, we know. And it ends up costing you money in the end, because they fill all that space with markups, fees, and price-raising middlemen. In fact, by the time you buy it, it's likely that they've sold that same bottle of wine twice or even 3 times before. Naked Wines connects you directly to the world's best independent winemakers and their award-winning wines, so you can cut out the middlemen and get great wines at an honest price, up to 60% off in fact. Take back control of the way you wine and get closer to the winemaker. Find out more and try the new way to wine at us.nakedwines.com/podcast. Drink responsibly, and be sure to listen to The Young Turks on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This episode of 60 Second Science is brought to you by TED Health. Ever wonder what happens to donated eggs after the donors die, or how sugar affects the brain? On TED Health, a podcast from the TED Audio Collective, Dr. Shoshana Ungerleider introduces you to leading health experts and breaks down all of the fascinating health questions you didn't know you had. You'll learn what a smart bra means for better heart health, 3 ways to prepare for the next pandemic, and how we can all live healthier lives. Hear more about the way your body works and the newest insights changing the medical world from TED speakers. Find TED Health wherever you listen to podcasts.
This is Scientific American's 60 Second Science. I'm Christopher Intagliata. Hundreds of miles southeast of New Zealand, you'll find the windswept Bounty and Antipodes Islands. It's there you'll find the breeding grounds of what may be the world's most punk rock penguin, which sports twin bleached blonde mohawks.
So it's like if you took a penguin and you put its flipper in an electricity outlet and it got a shock. That's what you might imagine it looks like.
Lloyd Davis of New Zealand's University of Otago says the erect-crested penguin, as it's known, also has a peculiar breeding strategy. The females lay 2 eggs, but generally leave the first one to die.
They just plop the egg down on the rock, and it's just bizarre to see. And then 40% of them, they just turn their back on it. They don't even attempt to incubate it. It's like, I don't care about that.
Davis says that's unusual because most birds pour resources into the first egg and the second and however many more, but the last egg is almost an afterthought.
The final egg just acts like an insurance policy for them, so that if they lose one of the other eggs, then they can rear the chick from that one. But this is quite the opposite, because in this case, and this is why it's such a conundrum in the biological world, is that they don't favor the first egg, they favor the second one.
Davis and his colleagues traveled to the Antipodes Islands in 1998 to investigate that conundrum. And in reanalyzing their data, they've narrowed down the possible explanations for the behavior. For one, they think the penguins might reject that first egg because it forms while the birds are migrating, so it's smaller, inferior perhaps, to the second, larger egg. And the penguins may also be acknowledging a reality many species face. They simply don't have the resources to raise 2 kids. The results are in the journal PLOS ONE. Davis says when he visited the islands almost 25 years ago, the penguins were the least studied penguins in the world. He says they still are, and now they're endangered.
They seem to have gone down about 1/3 of their population based on the evidence that we have, and yet we know nothing about them. We know nothing about the causes, and we need to do what we can to protect these wonderful and forgotten penguins.
After all, you could say the birds themselves are already putting all of their eggs in one basket. Thanks for listening. For Scientific American's 60 Second Science, I'm Christopher Intagliata.